Hey, everybody, welcome back. I have another great guest with us today. This has been so much fun for me, getting a chance to dig in with people like this guest I've known for years, but I think we're going to learn a thing or two that we didn't know before, all about how she's helping authors. So let me kick things off with her formal introduction. I'm pleased to interview one of our BizBook Publishing Hub's founding partners. Our hub partners are experts who support entrepreneurs along their author journey. Before we dive in, here is a quick word from our sponsor. Today's guest is a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and international author success coach who specializes in helping coaches, trainers, speakers, and experts build profitable author funnels through their books. She founded a global publishing agency dedicated to guiding overwhelmed yet purpose-driven authors on their transformative journey of self-discovery through the publishing process. Focusing on business and self-help books, she offers a full range of services to ensure that every author receives customized support tailored to their unique needs. Having assisted over 500 clients from 35 countries, she's committed to promoting diversity and inclusion within her team and clientele. Through her agency, she empowers aspiring authors to position themselves as trusted experts in their fields, even if writing isn't their strongest skill. Her programs include everything from book writing and editing to cover design and marketing strategies. Please join me in welcoming Jyotsna Ramachandran. Welcome.
Hey, Robbie, thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
I'm so pleased you're here. You and I connected. I was just like having a moment down memory lane. Back in 2017, when I was working my first book, you and I met through a writing group. And you've done so much since then. You helped me with my first two books when I was trying to figure out how to do BookBub and BuckBook and all those complicated marketing strategies. And I just was at a point where, especially my first book, I did not want to learn anything new. And I was like, oh, I know somebody who knows something about this. So you're one of the first trusted people that I got to know. And I'm so thrilled that you've joined the hub. I'd love to hear a little more about the journey that led to you being a person who's so invested in supporting all these authors. So how did this all get started?
Sure, Robbie. So it all started way back in 2015 when I decided to write a book for the first time. So I was already aware of the whole process of self publishing because by then I had created this side hustle of publishing ghostwritten books under different pen names by hiring ghostwriters and publishing them on KDP. So that was the business I started with. So the business model was all about getting royalties through these small ebooks that I was putting out week after week. But after a point, I realized that I was not an expert in any of those topics. I was just doing it with the sole intention of making a quick buck. And I realized that some of those books were not of good quality as well. And I had no method to verify if the content was accurate. And as a result, I started getting a lot of negative reviews for those books. And around the same time, a lot of people were asking me how I managed to quit my job. And the more I spoke to people, I realized there are so many people out there who are stuck in a job that they hated. So I thought that now that I understand the whole process of publishing, why not use my own expertise for once and write a book on how one can quit their job if they don't like it. And that's how Job Escape Plan, my first book, got published. And in order to publish it, I knew the publishing process, but I had no idea about the writing process, which is why I joined self publishing school. And that program was immensely helpful. A, because it helped me understand how to write a decent book. And B, I got connected with amazing authors just like you, Robbie. And after I published my book, it did pretty well. It was on top of the Amazon's bestseller rank for weeks, and it got noticed by a contributor who picked the book as one of the top 10 business books of 2015 and put it up on Inc.com, which was something I never expected. I got a lot of invites on being a guest on podcasts, on TEDx stages, and that is when authors started noticing that, hey, this is a new author who's doing so well in a short span of a few months. And they asked me if I could, and all these were authors from self publishing school initially, who asked me if I could help them with this whole process because they were getting overwhelmed. On one hand, they were writing, and then they knew they have to market it, and in between, they have to publish, and there are so many elements, right? So they felt that my book was of good quality, and they asked me if I could introduce them to my editor, my cover designer, and all of that. I realized by doing that, I'm not doing full justice, because I'm just telling them, hey, go and work with so and so. But those people are also freelancers. I felt I could really serve authors in a better way if I could remove the overwhelm from the whole thing and be like a project manager for them, where my internal team could manage the whole process for them, and they don't have to individually find all these freelancers to work with. And that's how the idea of happy self publishing came about. So it's been 9 years now.
Wow, that's amazing how it's all came together so quickly in 2015 for you that
Right.
you were approaching your own book. I mean, I do feel this is something that I discovered too, that
Hmm.
by the time you finish the first book, it felt like I had to write another one, given all that I'd learned in the process. And it was that
Right.
first time around, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on this project.
Hmm.
So, you get what you pay for. That is the truth. And I don't want to disparage anybody, but if you don't know as an author like what quality work looks like, it makes it even harder for you to judge it.
Yeah.
And I ended up hiring some from Upwork to do the formatting for my first book, and having to educate myself and then educate her about what I wanted it to look like. Because I said something like, "Oh, I don't want it to look self-published." And she said, "Why not?" And I was um, like, what? So part of the reason I built the hub is that this is a focus on entrepreneurs
Yeah.
who are writing books to help them grow a business. So the quality, like you said, the editing, it has to be a really good book. Like this, the first part of any marketing is the book is useful and you know who it's for. How do you help authors through that first piece of identifying a market? Do the authors often come with that already in mind, or are you helping them figure out what book to write versus just publishing the book they bring to you?
Yeah, so we work with all kinds of authors, Robbie, and most people are at different stages of their publishing cycle. So some people come to us right at the end, where their manuscript is already finished and they just need help with the publishing elements like the cover design, the editing, and they probably already are working with a book launch specialist like you. So in that case, we customize the offering based on what they need. But a lot of times authors come to us at the very beginning, and I love that, because now we have a lot of scope to give feedback and to correct them on the topic, give them ideas on the title, give them ideas on the positioning. Because sometimes people write a book because they just got inspired by seeing somebody on stage having their book, and now they want to put out a book the very next month. They fail to give it the time to connect the book with their business, because I feel that if you are an entrepreneur who have something valuable to offer to your audience, and you want your book to help you grow your business, then the book has to be connected with your business, right? So if you're solving a problem in your business, the book has to solve a similar problem. Only then you're going to attract target readers who could be your sole clients for your business in the future. Otherwise, your book could be on one topic and your business could be on an entirely different topic, or the angle of the book, may not be right. For example, if I want to cater to a particular client who's at the beginning of a problem, but your book is about solving the last stage of the problem, then there is a disconnect there. So overall, it may seem like the same topic, but at what stage are these people reading your book? That matters a lot. So I would really appreciate if people work with specialists at the very beginning, so that they get the topic right and they get their outline right. And the outline is also super important, because as a first time author, most people do not know how much to offer in the book. Some people feel that they shouldn't be giving away too much information, otherwise people will not work with them later. And some people give away everything and they write a 500-page book, which is also not going to solve the purpose. So determining all of those things: how long should your book be, how should it be structured, how should be the flow. So to get inputs on all of these, some people come to us at the very beginning, so that's where we help them to position the book correctly for their target customer in the future.
When I first started putting together the BizBook Publishing Hub, before I even had a name or a full concept, I thought I was putting together a referral network of maybe 8 to 12 people.
Yeah.
And you were one of the people I reached out to have a conversation about this. And I was doing these research calls, and I thought that I was just going to find a few people that could send me business, and that I was going to really narrowly define my role as just the launch, and that I only wanted to really talk to people who had a manuscript that was complete and ready to go to the editor. I've since realized later this whole year that the sooner I can talk to an author, everything you just said. Now, I'm not a writing coach and I'm not a developmental editor, but I'm a strategist. And so I love having a conversation with someone who's thinking about writing a book, because then I can help them gauge whether they should, what book should they write, do they have the time for this, do they have a clear audience, do they have an offer figured out? And if they are serious, well, then I can introduce them to people like you through the hub that will help guide them through the writing stages of the process, whether or not they do the publishing, and then someone else like you who can
Yeah.
also do the publishing. But man, I think people who just write a book based on their passion and then go hire someone to publish it, and that publisher says, okay, like, that's, don't hire someone who's just going to say, okay, I'll just publish whatever you give me, because then you might be back to where you were in the beginning, which is you were just publishing books, you couldn't vet the content, you didn't know the quality, you had no idea if it factually was correct.
Yeah.
There are people out there who will just publish your book. So I think we got to find service providers who will ask questions, ask you about your positioning, what comes after the book. I think those are the kinds of people I wanted to attract as the hub partners, because entrepreneurs writing a book, it's first of all, it means usually saying no to other business for the time period that you're writing and marketing. So you better have a plan for how to make money off of the book after.
Absolutely.
Tell us the full range. It sounds like you do a little bit of everything for these authors, from idea, concept, writing, editing. What am I missing? Developmental
Yeah.
editing, cover
I'll
design,
talk about it.
interior design.
Sure. So when I started, Robbie, the most popular requests were for cover design, uh, formatting. So these two were our initial services. And then I realized that people also needed editing. So we were initially, for the first 5 years of Happy Self Publishing, only focusing on the publishing elements. So the four essentials are the cover design, the editing, the formatting, and the distribution on Amazon and other platforms. People who are publishing for the first time actually, get overwhelmed even by the process of creating their KDP account and uploading it, choosing the categories, choosing the keywords, all of that, writing the description. So we were doing all of this, which are pretty important. But then once we started working with authors who came to us at the initial stages, I realized that not every author is a writer. And in the past, people felt that only people who are gifted writers are qualified to become authors. So, though people had important messages and stories to share, they could be even very successful entrepreneurs, but they felt that they were slightly lower than all these people who are good at writing. And that is where I felt that publishing should become more inclusive. It's Platforms like Amazon have opened it already, like a decade ago. But in their minds, authors still feel that, not authors, the aspiring authors feel that they cannot become authors because writing is not their number one thing. They are great at managing their teams, they are great at marketing their business, but writing is not their number one superpower. So I wanted to break that, because personally, for me, writing is not my superpower as well. And another classic example is at my home. My husband, he's dyslexic, and I helped him write his book. So I felt that there are many people like these. So I wanted to serve them, and that's why I introduced these writing services. So
I
there are
love
three
it.
things we do. For authors who just need the clarity, we give them a 90-minute VIP book clarity session. In those 90 minutes, we help them understand what is their business all about, and how is the book going to be connected to the book, who is their target reader, how can they appeal to the target reader by choosing the right topic, and all of that, what should be the lead magnet inside the book. So we help them get clarity on all these different things, so that now clarity cannot be the the bottleneck for them anymore. Because a lot of times authors procrastinate because they tell to themselves that they haven't decided the topic. But once they finish that 90-minute call, we actually give them title and subtitle suggestions. So the entire blueprint is given to them. Now it's their job to go and write. So some authors take this blueprint from us after the 90-minute call, go write the book, and then come back to us. But some other authors who realize that they are not going to do the writing themselves, they go for our angel writing services, where now they have the outline of the book, but our angel writer will get on calls with them week after week for 12 weeks and interview them. It's going to be podcast style, where the interviewer, the angel writer, is going to ask them questions and the author is going to answer them. And I feel that 80% of the content is already in the author's head. They just have to speak if they're asked the right questions. And we go back to the 20% where the research work has to be done. So we ask them to go find, some studies and statistics to substantiate what they are going to talk about in the book, like quotes and things like that.
I love that you call them angel writers instead of ghost writers. I don't know where
Yeah.
ghost writers came from, but I love angel writers. And as someone
Yeah.
myself who I published 3 books, I'm about to work on a 4th, and I do not identify as a writer. It's not the first thing I'm drawn to communication style wise. I really appreciate everything you're saying. And for those listening to the show, you know that the other episodes besides these expert interviews is our author panels. And we hear a lot of stories on those author panels about people who wrote a book and then had to figure out who the audience was, or the audience changed as they realized after the book came out. Just, working with someone up front, even that 90-minute kind of program, to get that clarity and that focus. There's a lot of hub partners that offer something like that. And your website was one of the few that I looked at when I was trying to make a list of all the possible services to put on the intake form for the hub partner application, because I was like, whoa, there's so much. And when we first got started, we were well, I say we, it's the royal we, it's me and my VA, but I was thinking of just up to the publication point, but then wow, people need help beyond that. So now we have this huge marketing, and you also do a lot of marketing. In fact, I did come to you for that help getting the book out there.
Yeah.
My first book, Croissants versus Bagels: Strategic, Effective, and Inclusive Networking at Conferences, broke the top 100 US Kindle for free Kindle books. And that's not a goal I had. I was, I listed the book for free. You helped me push it out. My focus was getting reviews more than anything. But I do think that getting that push on that first few days, and then it was switched to 99 cents, and we did another push using one of those other services. I mean, I think I sold several thousand, like 2,000 books
Yeah.
in like a short time span. Well, I guess some of them were downloads, some of them were purchases, but a lot of people got access to that book really fast. And I had a goal around getting reviews. I'd love to hear a little bit about your thoughts on like what goals do you think authors should aim for? Like, what are the metrics of success that an author should keep track of about whether their book is actually working for them in their business?
Yeah, this is such a good question, Robbie, because as you know, success means different things to different people, right? For some people who publish their book without any business goal, just having the book out there and giving that first copy to their mom could be success to them. They don't need to track any metrics. But here we are talking about business owners, right, who want to be strategic about their book. So, first of all, I think the number of people in your launch team is a very important metric. And many authors do not think about this, they do not plan it in advance. And one of the first authors who did a great job that I have seen is you, Robbie. You clearly stood out from the normal authors that we work with, because for most people, just having the book out there is achievement. And they mostly start thinking about marketing after the book is published. Though we keep telling them that the minute you start writing the book, you should start marketing it. But people don't understand how important that is. But if you can put the time and effort in building your launch team and like just have 100 people who are signed up to support you, I think that's a huge success, because these people are now invested in your book. They want to know all the updates. They want to know what's happening, and they are willing to download your book once it's available. So they are going to be your first readers who are going to write reviews for your book. So having a good launch team, I think that's one thing that authors should aim for. Um, the second thing is obviously all the initial downloads, right? And you could run your free promotions, you could do them the 99 cents, whatever. But that I think really, really helps in giving the initial push in the initial momentum. So that's again, they may not be your exact target clients, but in the future, they could join your email list. So the third thing could be the number of people who have bought your book and join your email list as a result of the free bonus or the reader magnet that you're given inside the book. So I think these are some of the things that authors should aim for, because no, even if you've sold thousands of books on Amazon, if you don't have a way to collect the information of your reader, it's very tough for them to organically follow you on social, voluntarily join your email list, follow your work, and become your clients later. But if you actually guide them on the next steps after reading the book, it's you're creating the author funnel, because you're self-publishing your book, so you have the advantage of doing all of that. You have the freedom to do all of that. So I think authors should do that and track how many people from their readers are becoming their followers and then later their clients.
I have so many ideas on this right now. This is like my happy space.
I know.
Speaking of happy self-publishing, I am like, when it comes to this whole process, the writing is not my favorite part, although I've gotten better at it. I've found sort of ways to make it happen easier. I do a lot of video content that I then create transcripts for, right? So I've gotten out of my own way doing this, better outlines and all of that. But thinking about the launch team, I got the general concept from the writing group that we were in,
Hmm.
but even when I shared with them my results, they were like, "What? How did you do that?" And I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's
"Well,
not common. Yeah.
I was like, I kind of followed what you did, but then I I added my own little twists."
Yeah.
I had a goal for my first book that I was going to get 100 reviews by my launch day, and 150 reviews happened within a week
Mm.
of my launch day. That wasn't the original goal, but it was a nice little added bonus. And I will
Mm.
say, one of the things that I learned from that writer group was that there's a difference between your publication date and your launch date, which
Yeah.
is something that I constantly talk about with writers, because I think, particularly if it's interesting when they're working with a publisher, they don't get that message at all. The publisher is always like, the release date, the release date, the published date, the published date, and like they're driving them all to, like, everything has to happen on this one day. And yes, I guess if you're aiming for a New York Times bestseller, like, that is important in its own way. But the authors that I'm working with, generally that's not their goal. They just
Yeah.
want to have a strong launch that will help them have continued business. They're not aiming for New York Times bestseller, which is its own like
Yeah. It's a
whole.
different ball game altogether.
Yeah. So, but I used to be like any people on the launch team, but now I've gotten a lot more particular about having likely prospects and referral partners based on whatever the next step is. So there's been a lot of refinement as I've worked with authors over the years. I've only recently made this a more formal package, but I've been doing this since basically my first book came out in 2017. I've had people
Right.
asking me, "How'd you do that?" And then I would work with them. So I think what you're talking about, these metrics of like getting a certain number of people on your launch team and having the conversion happen between what the book reader, how do they become a subscriber of your email list, and then how do you nurture them into a prospect conversation, and then having some of those folks track into a client call. I have folks right now who are getting ready for the next Kindle cross promotion campaign, and one of them shared in a testimonial that the last one, this is where we like drop our book prices to 99 cents, just by virtue of reaching out to get people like involved in buying this book for 99 cents and then saying, "Hey, by the way, can you also do a review?" Like, it was a little bit of a review push. Someone is booking him to come speak in Australia. So it's like,
Wow. Crazy.
it's like this, all these opportunities come when people actually know you're an expert and that you have this
Yeah.
book and it's a good book and people like your book. So how have you approached reviews? I want to just acknowledge that your first book, that you mentioned earlier, it has 389 total ratings, and the ratings is a 4.4 out of 5, which is great. But here's the real kicker: 220 of those are written reviews. So it's hard to get written reviews. Ratings, people can just put
Yeah.
the number of stars. They don't have to write anything. But you have 220 written reviews, and if I go and look at the most recent review, it's from June of a couple of years ago. So you've had a lot of reviews came in early on, but you've got some reviews that came even later. curious, how did you approach the review process for that book? Was this a process of a launch team? Was it organic? And then how do you coach your clients to do their launches and focus on reviews?
Yeah. So this is what I did, Robbie. Similar to what you did, actually. I was very intentional about having as many people as possible in my launch team. Now it's been 10 years, so I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember there were at least 100 of them, and most of them were fellow authors because authors love to support other authors. So I have been supporting so many authors. So I thought now when I ask for reviews, it's going to be a great opportunity for them to return the favor. So a lot of people voluntarily signed up, and I think I gave them some bonus as well for being a part of the launch team. They signed up. Actually, initially I didn't have this sophisticated process that I learned from you later about having this Google form and asking a bunch of questions. I just I think I just put them all on a Facebook group or something. There was a way for me to, or an email list. But basically, I was communicating with them regularly, and so most of the reviews came from my launch team members. But there were also a lot of people that we personally are connected to, like your neighbor, like your colleague at work, and many of them may not be uh, online available on social media, or they don't want to be publicly like being a part of a launch team and stuff, but they are, that they are your well wishers. So I reached out to them saying that I made a list of physical list of all these people I knew who could help me, and I individually messaged these people, and even if they sent me a thumbs up, I considered that to be a yes. And I would send them the links to the book. Recently, my mom's cookbook was launched. So what I did was, a lot of people gave me a thumbs up that they're going to support the book and they're going to write a review. So I actually recorded a video of how to read, write a review, because we think that it's common sense, if you give the book link, but I actually give them the review link, because a lot of people don't know that by clicking the book you have to scroll down and then go and leave a review, when you go to the Amazon page. So I actually take the Amazon review link and give it to them. But even that level of spoon feeding is not enough sometimes. And I actually recorded a share video, a screen recording video of, once you go on to that page, what does Amazon expect? You need to leave your number of stars and then the title of your review. Then you can add photos and videos if you want, or if you can, and then the actual review, and hit the submit button. So I actually recorded all of this and sent it to a few people, and that actually helped me get more reviews. So I think the key is following up multiple number of times to all those people who have communicated a yes. That really helps.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole process now that I've really refined. I've created,
Mhm.
I don't know if you even know this, but I created a whole online program that people can
Wow.
access directly. And that program is also part of my one-on-one coaching with my authors. So they really, there's these 5 phases of the launch. And so they can
Nice.
watch all the video clips, they can read the transcripts, they have all the download material. And then when they get on a call with me, they've already started building their invite list. And we do use
Mhm.
technology to our advantage because there's a lot to manage.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when
If I do it now, I wouldn't do it the way I did it 10 years
yeah,
ago.
when you
So
were
I would
talking about
obviously take that 5-step process from you and just follow that.
yeah,
And but what
when
I've noticed, Robbie,
yeah,
most authors, though we teach them all of this, the reason why they don't do it is because of a mindset block that they have, that they're not supposed to be marketing their book. They think that once the book is available on Amazon, people should find it, people should read the whole book, and be kind enough to leave a review. And they feel that it is not very nice to go ahead and ask for a review. I feel once authors change this mindset that they're not good at marketing, or marketing is cheap, once they remove these limiting beliefs, that is when the process that we teach is going to be followed. Otherwise, they'll keep telling themselves that it's not nice to market their book. I tell them that if you don't do it, who is going to do it, right? It is, you have an important message that you've shared in your book. Now it is your responsibility to make sure the message reaches thousands of people. If the author doesn't do it, your VA is not going to do it. You need to put that energy first, and then there are other people to support you. But the first energy has to come out from the author.
I've also seen people sort of skip a step. You know, they go from publishing to PR. And if you don't have a good launch, then there are no reviews in your book, there are no sales in your book, and you're sending people to a book sales page that's not going to convert. So I've seen publishers that direct people to a PR agency that they, have a cooperative relationship with,
Yeah.
or to a bestseller campaign that people do. And I've asked a lot of these publishers. I've met so many publishers and hybrid publishers um, building the hub about their thoughts on this, and they're like, "Well, I mean, number one bestseller, it's not that important, but authors ask for it." And I'm like, in what other industry would we take strategic direction from the client? Like, but they said,
Yeah.
well, we don't really have anything else to offer them. And because they didn't have someone to say, here's the person that can help you through a really thoughtful strategic launch, which is the hole in the market that I realized was there. And that was the piece that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like the number one bestseller thing gets such a big push for first time authors because it's all they know. Like they
Yeah.
don't really get that it's not gonna change the outcome of their bank account. It's not
Sure.
that it's a bad thing. Like I've hit number one 30 times across 4 countries. My last book hit number one 18 times, but my last book also has 250 written reviews and
Yeah.
250
That's
free
more
ratings.
important. Yeah.
Way more important. And I think that tension out there with new authors is educating them, about I see number one bestseller as a byproduct of a good launch, not
Yeah.
the program you pay for, but like you pay for a good launch. So tell me a little bit about that, because I know you do some services for your authors. What are your authors asking for, and how are you able to give them more information about
Yeah.
the benefits of each of these?
So everybody wants to be on the number one bestseller charts, and then I tell them what is the reality. What does it mean actually? And I first educate them on the difference between New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and the Amazon bestseller, because they shouldn't be thinking that some magic is going to happen and they're going to be on the billboards, and that doesn't happen once you're on the Amazon bestseller, right? So I make that very clear, and then I tell them that this is a nice thing to have, but what's more important is the whole process of launching your book, because you should become more visible around the time when your book is coming out, because a lot of people have never posted even a video on their social platform for the last 5 years, and now you tell them to do all of these things, and that is when they just want to outsource this to an agency. Many people do that with my company as well. They don't put in the effort, they just want the bestseller, and they get that. But as you rightly said, the joy is very short lived, because your book is just going to fall off the charts very soon unless they back it up with all the other efforts. So now we also offer podcast bookings for authors. So that's something that is an ongoing thing. It's not just a spike that comes on one day and it falls off, right? So I encourage them to go on podcasts as many times as possible, especially around the launch time. And the mistake is a lot of people put in the efforts in the first 2 months of having the book out, but after that they move on to the next project. But there are few authors who keep marketing their book for years till their next book is out, right? So these are the people who get the maximum benefits from their book, because they don't look at the book as a one time project, but as a long term tool to not just position themselves as an expert, but also gain clients from the book. So these are the people who will actually put in the work of going on podcasts, building their launch team, and becoming more visible on their social media platforms, and not just outsource it to somebody.
It's such a mindset shift, I think, for someone who is trying to be known as a thought leader, recognized expert, to they wrote a book, and then to think about all the marketing that comes with that. And then it's really like, when's the first I just did a post yesterday. I asked I said, what's the right time to start marketing your book? And the answer was yesterday. And if that's not possible, today. And the second part of the question was, how long should you market a book? And I said, every tomorrow after. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sort of an ongoing thing. When I run the Kindle cross promotion campaign around Black Friday and around Amazon Prime Day in July, I've heard from authors who have books that are 5 or more years old that it's been a really good reminder that these books are evergreen and that they can keep
Mm.
talking about them. Because I think as authors, we also kind of move on. Like we either
Yeah.
move on to another book or another topic or another talk or something. So having these ways to kind of re-energize even the author years
True.
later, I think it's been really exciting byproduct. I wanted to ask you though, if there's a particular success story that you can share that one of your authors has had from working with you and getting their book out there in all these big ways.
Yeah, so many of them. We've worked with more than 500 authors so far. But in the last couple of years, it's even more rewarding because these people have come with no manuscript. So recently, we worked with an author who's already a PhD um, student. He's already working on getting his doctorate, and he knew that he is capable of writing. So he's not somebody who doesn't like to write, but he knew that since he was busy with his PhD, and he's also getting a lot of speaking engagements, and he wanted a book which is different from his thesis, because you cannot have a technically heavy book for the common audience, right? So he wanted to have a much shorter book, and we did a great job of converting his PhD material into an easy to read book. And I think that also helped him get booked on several stages. He's already the head of marketing in a company, but having a book really helped him get on more stages. So though he now has a doctor next to his name, having a simple book that people can connect with is very as important as having your PhD as well.
My gosh, I feel like there could be a publishing house that just focuses on helping doctoral students convert their thesis to a
Yeah,
readable book for the masses because they put so much effort, but like you said, it's super technical and it would
yeah,
not work for the everyday person. I love that you're able to support him in making that conversion happen. And having a book is definitely part of the speaker, experience. I'm a professional
right,
speaker. That was the first reason I went to write a book. When you have a book, you don't make tons of money off of individual sales usually, but bulk sales from speaking, coaching, consulting, that can be really lucrative over time. We connected again because of the hub, and I'm just kind of curious, have you been part of a referral network like this before? What's been your experience? Why do you think this is a valuable, community space? We have these monthly events. One month it's just for hub partners. The other month it's our free virtual networking event for writers and authors. Now we have
right.
the podcast. There's over 50 hub partners, these
Yeah.
amazing experts. So just kind of curious what your thoughts have been about being part of this experience.
Yeah, first of all, Robbie, I must thank you for creating the hub, because I don't think something like this exists for the self publishing industry. I have been part of other networking groups where every entrepreneur is from a different industry. So that works very differently. But here, everybody serves the same kind of client, right? Uh, I used to think that I have everything under one umbrella. But only after joining your hub and filling out that detailed form, I realized that, oh my God, there are so many niche services that are out there which I was not even aware of. Because, for example, I know nothing about the traditional publishing industry, and you had this one service about writing book proposals for people who want to reach out to traditional publishers. So I realized that there are so many other people who are doing complementary things. So if I get a client who is very clear about traditional publishing, that they want to go the traditional publishing route, and we only help them with the writing, then after that I can send them to somebody who can help them with the next steps, which I don't offer, right? So I think that way this is a very nice network where people can support one another. And I'm guilty of not being a part of the monthly calls yet, because I live in India and most of the people are in the US, but I promise to be participating in the future calls.
We'd love you to stay up late and join us.
Sure.
It's such a tricky thing. I usually try to have events between 12 and 2 Eastern because we got to
Mhm.
make it a reasonable time for West Coast and India, and it gets tricky. We got Europe in there as well.
Yeah.
In a moment, I'm gonna ask you about what advice you'd give someone to help them write a book that will help them grow their business. But first, we're gonna have a quick word from our sponsor. Okay. What advice would you give someone who's listening and they're thinking about doing this? Like maybe it's something you've said before you want to reiterate, maybe it's something new you want to share.
Sure.
And I'm particularly talking about the entrepreneur, the business owner, the thought leader who's writing this book to help them increase the revenue in their bank account. What
Yeah.
advice would you share?
First of all, I think while choosing their topic, I would recommend entrepreneurs to go for that one, pressing problem, and give the shortest solution to that one problem for their client through their book, because their client could have hundreds of problems which you could be solving in your business, but you cannot be writing a book about all of that. Then your book is going to be too broad and you're going to be writing to nobody. You may think, a lot of people tell me that my book is for everyone, but then nobody's going to read it. So choose the topic that is going to be the quickest solution to the most pressing problem for your target client.
And it's great. I mean, that's the start of it, is getting clarity up front about like who you serve, who do you need. I always think of a book as being a way to I mean, there's a problem people have that they know they have that they're willing to admit. Like, that's not the problem that you usually are selling some services or solutions for. But if you write a book that attracts people on that part, and you, through the book or a talk or a social post, right? It's always the same kind of idea. But if through the book you can help them realize, wow, there's so much more to this that I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
Now you're positioning yourself as the expert or the guide who can help them. Plus, you've teased out that there is a solution. You've given them some ideas about that solution. So it makes them just a more educated prospect for you. And if you couple that with, as you said earlier, some great bonus material, the whatever the lead magnets might be, which for me, I used to think that was sort of just the PDF, like I had a very sort of flat understanding of what that looked like. Now, my last two books, people download a zip folder
Yeah.
full of, I
So
mean,
many goodies, right?
so
Yeah.
many goodies. Like there are PDFs that have links to videos that I've done on YouTube. There's workbooks and worksheets and checklists and step-by-step guides. Like, holy cow, like there's so much
Yeah.
information you can give people. But the people who take that and actually do a little bit of work, they actually make themselves even more aware of the fact that
Qualified.
they
Yeah.
don't want to do it on their own. They really need your support because they've tried, and they see
Right.
the limitations and what more they could do if they had the right support. So I just think the book can make magic happen, but you really do have that clarity up front. This has been a great conversation. I'm curious, how can people find you and follow your work?
People can follow us on our Instagram handle at Happy Self Pub. And if they want to just get clarity on the next steps, they can schedule a book clarity call with me at happyselfpublishing.com/call.
Fantastic. I have even more links than that in the show notes, because I also have your LinkedIn, your
Sure.
YouTube. I've got your podcasts. I've got your books, TEDx talks. Oh my gosh, you got so much great content in here. And of course, you are one of our founding hub partners. So we're going to put the link to that right at the top of this section so that people know they can find all about you from that page as well, and get your lead magnet, your resource that you're gifting people at bizbookpublishinghub.com. You'll find all the show notes for this episode, all the other episodes. You'll also see an invitation to attend one of our free virtual networking events for writers and authors. And of course, more than 50 of these experts who are helping entrepreneurs become successful authors. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's just been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Robbie, for this opportunity.